Hello, good morning, class. I hope you're having a great day so far. All right, so now we got to pick up where we left off yesterday. Can anybody tell me what we were doing yesterday? Yes, yes, we were doing figurative language. We were introducing that topic. Uh, so, can anybody tell me what the definition of figurative language is? Yeah. That's kind of like this right there. So, figurative language is language that creates an image, association, or other effect for the listener or reader that goes beyond literal meaning. Okay, so today we're going to look at two of the most common types of figurative language used in writing, the simile and the metaphor. Now, these two are a little tricky. Some people have trouble differentiating between the two or telling which one is which. Um, so, in order to help us make more sense of this, we're going to use the comparison table. Okay, so I'm going to hand these out. Okay, and when you get it, please write your name on it and write as I write, okay? All right. Does everybody got their sheet? Everybody's got their name on it? Everybody's ready to go? All right, we're going to do some comparing, okay? So this is going to be very important for us so that we can understand exactly how these are different because they do feel similar. So it's important to know when each one is being used, okay? Um, so I know we've done comparison tables before, but it's important we always mention the linking steps. We've got to make sure we're always doing our linking steps, okay? So for the comparison table, we're going to be communicating our target concepts. We're going to be obtaining our overall concept. We're going to be making a list of known characteristics. We're going to be pinning down the like characteristics. We're going to then assemble like categories. Then we're going to record unlike characteristics and identify unlike categories. Then we're going to nail down a summary. We're going to get a good summary. It's going to be fantastic. And then we're going to go beyond the basics. So then we're going to take things just a little step further. All right, so let's get started with these linking steps, okay? So what do we know about similes and metaphors? Can anybody just share what they might have heard, might know? Okay, yeah, yep. They are literary elements, and more specifically, they are part of figurative language. So they're going to be our overall concept is going to be figurative language, right? So this is two things that are used similarly, but they're a little different, and we're going to keep working through that. But it's important that we know that similes, metaphors, are both figurative language. So make sure, guys, that we have that written down under overall concept, figurative language, okay? All right. All right. So can anybody tell me why they think similes and metaphors are so connected, why people, get them mixed up all the time? And why do we see these things connected so often? Okay. Yeah, I do agree. So similes and metaphors are connected because they do similar tasks, right? They're both used in comparisons. They're both used to have activate a reader's imagination. Um, so that's why these concepts are so connected is because their utilization, how they're used, is very similar. But as we go on, we'll find out in the finer details that these things are just a little bit different, and they each have a unique purpose, and some people like some more than others, and it'll be part of style, which is something that we talked about earlier in the unit on literary elements, and yeah, I just think it's great that we're going to be going over this. All right, so what do we know? Can somebody give me an example of a simile? Does anybody know? If not, that's okay. Okay, so we're struggling a little bit. Okay, so a simile would be he's moving as fast as a speeding bullet, right? Okay, and so what do we notice? What did I do to make that simile? He's moving as fast as a speeding bullet. All right, yep. So I'm comparing him to a bullet, right? So we're doing a comparison. And did I use anything specific? I'll give you another simile so we can see. Um, it's as cold as an iceberg, hot like a desert. So does anybody here anything that's similar? Am I using specific language when I'm making these similes? Yes, I'm using like and as. All right. And am I directly comparing it? Am I saying this is this? No, no, right? I'm not. No. So our characteristics that we know have to be part of a simile are we're making a comparison. We're using like or as, and that makes this comparison indirect. We are not directly saying something is something. We're saying it's like something else. It's not exactly something. Okay, so those are our three things. Make sure we have them under in characteristics underneath simile. Okay, I'm gonna walk around the room and I'm gonna go check. Make sure everybody's got everything. We're not falling behind or anything like that. We want to have comparison, indirect, uses like or as. Okay. Okay, so now let's talk about metaphor, right? Okay, so we've got simile. Boom, it's comparison. It's indirect. Uses like or as. But what's a metaphor? How is it different? What makes a metaphor a metaphor, you know? Does anybody have any ideas? And let's try to use the language that we're using here in characteristics. So, um, do metaphors do comparisons? Oh, you want an example? Okay, okay. Um, I am the storm. The world is a stage. Let's see. Hmm. So am I still doing a comparison? Yeah, right, I am. Yeah, it's a comparison. Okay, so we're going to have that down under characteristics. Okay, so I'll write that down. It is a comparison. So now we have written down on simile indirect. So we said that it's not saying something is something else. What are we doing with a metaphor? Are we saying, when I say, I am the storm, I am a storm, am I being direct? Am I directly comparing myself to something? Yeah, 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 I am. So this is going to be a comparison and it's direct. And did we use any kind of language before comparison? Did we say like or as? No, no. So we have a comparison, it is direct, and we do not use like or as. We are making a direct comparison, okay? And removing like or as allows us to make that direct comparison. All right, so now we've got both our characteristics down. We've got simile, comparison, indirect, uses like or as. Then we got metaphor, comparison, direct, does not use like or as, okay? And so now it's time for us to move on to our next step here, okay? So we got to pin down our like characteristics. Let's take a look. Let's see. Is there anything that is in both sides of characteristics from simile and metaphor? Do we have anything? Anybody find anything? Oh, you do? You think you got it? Okay. Hey, why don't you come up to the smartboard, you write it down, and then we'll talk about it, okay? All right. Oh, okay. Okay. So you wrote down comparison. Yes, yes, that is perfect. They are both comparisons. Those are the only things that we see here in characteristics that are the same. So great, good job. All right, let's keep it moving, guys. We're doing such good work today. All right. So now let's assemble our like categories here. So when we use metaphor and simile, what is their function, right? What are we doing? How are we doing these comparisons? What are we going to be doing? Does anybody know? Oh, I heard a good word back there. Did somebody say describe? Yes. I would say these both fall under the category of descriptive language. Yes, both of these are ways to describe something, describing a feeling, an experience, a person. So these are both descriptive language. Great. Good job. Wow, guys, we're killing it. I'm so proud of us. Okay, and now we got to record our unlike characteristics. All right, so that's their next step. Let's go back. Woo! We're gonna rewind back, look at our characteristics. Okay, so let's see here. What do we have in simile that we do not have in metaphor? Can somebody come up to the board? Oh, you want to come on up? Okay, let me see what you got. All right, what do we have that is not present in metaphor that is present in simile? Yes, we got indirect and uses like or as. Perfect job. All right, and can somebody do this for metaphor too? All right, come on up. All right, let's see. What do you got? What do you got? All right. So it looks like we have direct and does not use like or as. That is a perfect job. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a couple seconds. If people went up to the board, take a little bit of time. Make sure you got everything down on your own sheet. Okay, so we're going to take a second. All right. So now we got to look at unlike categories. And let's just talk this one out, right? Is there any way we can categorize these two differently? Is there anything we can do really? Um, I don't think so. I think they're just in the same. They're descriptive language. There's no way for us to really categorize them differently. I don't know what umbrella we could put them in. They're both figurative language. They're both literary elements. They're both descriptive language. I don't have a way other than the way they're used, and I wouldn't put that in as a category. So we're going to leave that one blank today. Okay, we don't need to put anything in unlike categories. Okay, awesome. All right, so now it's time for us to nail down this summary. How do we take everything we just wrote and create clear-cut definitions that will help us understand the differences between these two so that we can identify them and then also create them ourselves? Because we are readers, but we are also writers. And I want us to be able to use these things in class, okay? And outside of class if you guys start writing. And I would love us to be able to use our figurative language. All right. So does anybody have any ideas on how to structure this here, this summary that we're going to be doing? Okay, so I think we got to make sure here when we're making the summary we are very clear, we're very explicit that we are clearly dividing each one so that we know exactly what this is and what this is, right? So what would we do? I think we would take our concept, say what it fits in under the overall concept. So we're going to take simile is a form of figurative language, right? So we're going to say similes and metaphors are both types of figurative language. We've acknowledged how they're similar, right? And then we're going to say a simile is an indirect comparison that uses like or as. So we've used all the things that are unique and make a simile a simile. And then we're going to say a metaphor is a direct comparison that does not use like or as, right? So that in this summary, we now have a very clear-cut definition of each of these terms that will help us if we run into something and we don't quite know what it is, right? So I think this is perfect. I'm going to give you guys a minute or so to write it down, and then we'll move on to review. So before we hit the summary, let's go beyond the basics here. Let's take a step further. You know, we are students, we are academics, right? So we're gonna try to take this stuff and move it forward just a little bit. So why might a writer choose to pick one of these options over the other? So why would somebody pick a metaphor over a simile or a simile over a metaphor? Do you guys think there's a reason? Or just why would you pick one? You know, I think that would be interesting. Why would you decide to say something is this as opposed to something is like this, right? Um, oh yeah, it's definitely stylistic. You know what the writer thinks sounds better to their ear, and you know the direct comparisons sometimes they can have way more power to it, right? So if you're really trying to draw that connection, using that metaphor is just so strong. And the simile is very great too, but I think that you know there's a lot of strength behind that direct comparison. So I think that's why one writer might pick one over another. If something's super incredibly important, they may use a metaphor. Um, but at the end of the day, it's just a stylistic choice. So that's something you're going to develop as you grow as a writer, and your taste for things is going to evolve as you change as a reader as we grow throughout this year and your years here at high school. But yeah, so I think that's really great stuff, guys. And now we're gonna do some review, okay? So we've completed our comparison table, right? Hopefully we've cleared up any confusion that we've have about similes and metaphors. So show of hands, who feels really good about this? Who feels like, I know everything there is to know about similes and metaphors now? Okay, so we got a good amount of hands up. That's great. So before we move on, I want us to do a little review, okay? So who could tell me what overall concepts similes and metaphors fall under? Yes, they're figurative language, okay? And then let's see here. How do we know if a simile is being used? Okay, yeah, the comparison that's indirect and uses like or as. Perfect. Oh my goodness, guys. What about a metaphor? Yeah, all right, yep, perfect. So it's a comparison, direct, and does not use like or as. You guys, you're doing fantastic. How are these two similar? What do they have in common? Yep. Oh, yes, they're both comparisons. That's perfect. Great job. Okay, let's see. Um, where do we find a definition of our concepts? Can anybody tell me where you find that on the comparison table? Yes, right there in the summary. We got it right down there. Similes and metaphors are both types of figurative language. A simile is an indirect comparison that uses like or as. A metaphor is a direct comparison that does not use like or as. Right there in the summary. Perfect. Great job. All right. Can someone come up to the board and show me where we would find the comparison of concepts? Perfect. Thank you. Yes, in the unlike characteristics department, you did a great job. That's exactly where we're going to compare the concepts and see where the differences are. And then where would I find the categories that these things have in common? Does anybody want to come to the board? I would love to see somebody come up board and circle it and point it out for everybody. Yeah, come on up. All right. Yes, that's exactly where we find it, under like categories. This is perfect, guys. I am so proud. We have done a lot of great work, okay? And so I'm going to give you guys some work to do regarding similes and metaphors, and just finish it before the end of the class period. Turn it into me. When you're done, you're free. You can hang out, and I'll take this time to look at it and make sure we're all on the same page. So thank you so much, guys.